Welcome, everyone. I am Allison with Redmond Mag, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's event entitled Fireside Chat, Navigating Cybersecurity with Microsoft Sentinel and Security Co-pilot, sponsored by Proficio. Before we begin, I just want to cover a few housekeeping details. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please make sure to type those into the Q&A box, and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. Proficio has provided some resources which correspond with today's event, so please take a moment to check those out. They are located on the right of the audience console. Today's webcast is also being recorded, so keep an eye out for a link in your email to rewatch the presentation or share with a colleague. Now, Brian, please take it away.
We have an esteemed panel of experts from leading organizations who will share their insights and experiences with Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Security Co-pilot. Let's begin with introductions. Brad Taylor, please introduce yourself and Proficio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brad Taylor, and I'm the CEO of Proficio. It's a pleasure to be here today. I've been in cybersecurity for about 30 years now, and this is an exciting time for security professionals to have the tools that they need to perform detection and response capabilities, and then to summarize what's happening in their environments for management, present all the way to the board of directors. So really interested in talking to you today about what we're doing here at Proficio and helping some of our customers working with Microsoft. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Anil, please tell us about yourself and your role at Microsoft.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anil. I work at Microsoft, and I have a very fancy title called Global Black Belt, which is more of a, basically SME, which is focusing on security operations, so helping customers in modernizing their SecOps. And I'm based in Singapore. I've been with Microsoft for more than 10 years. And I've been working with customers in this area, largely focusing, in the region, and also when it comes to helping customers understanding their requirements on the SOC modernization journey. So that's what I do, and really excited to be here and talk to you all on this important topic.
Excellent, Anil. Ravi, could you share a bit about yourself and International SOS?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ravi Rai. I'm joining from Singapore. I currently work with International SOS in capacity of Senior Manager Cybersecurity. In my current role, I'm managing cybersecurity operation and project for the group. Proficio and Microsoft both are key partners for me when we talk about cybersecurity. International SOS as a company is primarily into health and security services, provide medical and travel security assistance. We operate in 90 countries and covering approximately 1,000 locations worldwide. We have 27 assistance centers. We serve approximately 12,000 customers across the globe, which covers around 90% of Fortune 100 companies. This is about the company. Thank you.
Excellent, Ravi. Thank you for the introductions. Now let's dive right into our first question to get the conversation started. Brad, what are some common challenges organizations face when implementing Microsoft Sentinel, and how can they be overcome to maximize its potential?
Thanks for the question, Brian. First, let me just kind of give a little bit of background about Proficio. So we're a managed detection and response company with global footprint and customers around the world. We have security operations centers in the United States, in Europe, and in Singapore. I've been in cybersecurity, for many years and working with a lot of large organizations all the way down to, mid-sized and small organizations, and seen a lot of these technologies, evolve over the years. And one of the things that's very exciting is the Microsoft Sentinel product really brings together true security management with a SIEM, a SOAR, user behavior analytics, and then the ability to perform response actions. They've also then combined that with a unified console for both security management and Defender. It's a really, really strong product that we are very happy to help our customers use in their security operations environment. Sentinel has a lot of really also good pre-built content for threat detection. So a lot of the rules that are asking questions of the logs to help you understand what's a true indicator of compromise or indicator of attack. The challenge that most companies face, though, is when you start to turn on all of those rules, you might get thousands of alerts in a day, and you don't know which ones are real, which ones are false, which ones are meaningful, which ones are actionable. And that's where, a partner or experience comes into play. You have to start to whitelist those things that are allowed. You have to start adding in content that may not be in that environment that's specific to your business and your business context. And then you have to create ways that your security operations center or your analyst can actually investigate alerts to validate, are they true and actionable, and what actions do I take? So Sentinel gives you the ability to create all of this and create the workflows, but it doesn't always just come right out of the box. There's a lot of great content, but you have to tune it to your environment. And that's where experience comes into play. You're going to need somebody that can manage the content and manage how to tune that content. You're going to need somebody that understands how to build content for detection and how to build content for response. And you're going to need somebody that understands both the business context as well as the technical context to understand what's meaningful to the business and how to prioritize and categorize the different events so that you can build out a proper workflow that's efficient within your both detection and response action side. So building out those workflows are critical to the success. You don't just do it immediately. You don't just plug it in and everything works. It takes a little time to build that up. We always recommend a walk before run strategy, but there's a lot of powerful content. There's a lot of capabilities. Once you do the detection, you can start to move into things like logic apps, which will allow you to automate the ability to contain a threat by quarantining an endpoint, maybe suspending a user identity, or blocking an IP address of an attacker at the firewall. And then lastly, one of the things that we see that companies are a little bit challenged with is that about 70% of attacks and compromises actually occur in non-business hours. And so you need that 24/7 detection and analytics capability so you understand when you're getting attacked at night, in the evenings, on the weekends, on holidays, and you need the ability to automate some of the response actions to contain those threats so that your responders have time to respond to compromises and attacks, and they're contained in some way. We recommend looking for partners in this environment, companies that have experience helping customers. And we highly recommend using a Microsoft security partner for SOC services, managed Sentinel. And if you go with a Microsoft security partner, Microsoft has helped to vet those partners, and you'll be assured that you're working with somebody that really works closely with Microsoft, understands the solution set, and can provide you a good experience. So thanks for the question, Brian.
Thanks for those insights, Brad. Addressing these challenges can make a big difference. Let's move on to our next question. Anil, what are some of the lesser known features or capabilities of Microsoft Sentinel that organizations should be leveraging for improved cyber defense?
I think I'm not sure if I would want to categorize that as lesser known, but I think something which is definitely quite helpful to customers when it comes to addressing the increasing cyber threats. And one of them I would call out is in the area of threat intelligence, right? Because as we see the threat actors, the number of threat actors we are tracking, I mean, even our own threat intelligence team is tracking over 300 different threat actors, right? And then customers would often want to bring in their own threat intelligence from third-party sources. Why this is important is to basically understand and see if any of the connections coming into the environment are from any known threat actors, right? Or it could be any of the activities which can help them identify data exfiltration, for example, or any C2 activities in the environment, for example. So many of these things are quite easily identifiable when customers bring in this threat intelligence. So what we have done in Sentinel over time is we have introduced something called TI widgets within the entity profile as SOC analysts are going through the incident investigation. This can come quite handy because as they are looking through the incident, it can pull in the information from the known TI service providers, including Microsoft first party, and give that information right there, right, without having to bring in all of that through the ingestion, for instance. So it's quite helpful and provides that information in the context of a security incident. Second thing that we have done in this area is also the ability to search for threat indicators within the UI. So we have built in a new simplified UI to look for specific threat indicators in the environment, which significantly improves the SOC analyst experience. And finally, the enrichment of TI through geolocation data, through whois information, right, and built-in automation use cases. So overall, I think in the area of threat intelligence, this can make the life of SOC analysts, a lot more easier when it comes to looking for threats in the environment and making use of the external threat intelligence information as well. Second area I think I would talk about, and I think this is an ongoing investment, and we have made a lot of improvements, is around SOC optimization. So, it's so common that customers bring a lot of different types of data into the SIEM, including Microsoft Sentinel, but many times they don't know how they are making use of this information, how they are covering different threat scenarios, which can be, discovered from those type of log sources. So in Sentinel, the engineering team is making a lot of improvements to give these insights to customers out of the box so that they can know what are the threat scenarios they can discover based on the data they ingest, which data sets they can make better use of, and if required, they can consider moving some of the data sets which are not really so much used into a lower cost tier, right? So it also helps in optimizing the cost. At the same time, it helps to improve the coverage, right? So threat detection coverage, and they can track it through MITRE-TTP. And finally, something to relate to Brad as well, like he said, that there's often a lot of noise that analysts need to go through, right? So what really helps in those scenarios and what tweaking that Sentinel allows to do is making use of automation rules and triggering the automation playbooks also through automation rules, for example. So these are the things which can help minimize the amount of work that SOC analysts have to do in order to navigate through a lot of these repetitive alerts, similar alerts in nature, right? And then it can reduce that work and then let the SOC analyst focus on something which is of maybe higher priority at the same time, right? So I think these are the things I would talk about across these three different categories, which I see is of high value to SOC analysts within the platform. Brian, over to you.
That's fascinating, Anil. It's always good to learn about features that can enhance our defense strategies. Now let's hear from Ravi about his organization's journey with Microsoft Sentinel. Ravi, what led your organization to choose Microsoft Sentinel and Proficio as part of your cybersecurity strategy?
Yeah, so thank you, Brian, for the question. When we started this discussion 1 year back, we are trying to solve two problems in primary, keeping it in primary. The first one is how we can expedite our response. Given the fact nowadays the attack window is we need to minimize the attack window, given the fact when we detect and by time we respond to attack, it generally takes 48 hours to 72 hours in traditional SOC environments, right? Because generally security team is not managing firewall, your antivirus solutions. So in that case, you need to rely on other teams. So you need to go through a lot of change approvals and all those things to actually contain the threat, right? In order to minimize that time window, we were looking for automation, a solution which can come together in terms of UABA, SIM, your logic apps, and all this can come together and help us in achieving the automation. And from the partner perspective, also, we are looking for a partner who has done similar work in past. And Proficio was incumbent at that point in time, and they really help us in understanding the solution really well, and how MS Sentinel can help us in achieving that. So that is one part of the problem which we are trying to solve. Other was related to how we can minimize the digital footprints on-prem footprint, right? So from on-prem infrastructure, we decided to move to the cloud, and where we started discussing about MS Sentinel. Since we have a good footprint of Microsoft across the environment, we found MS Sentinel is a good fit for us from that perspective. We also have an evaluation criteria where we checked whether our third-party connectors are supported or not, like all third-party log sources. And we found that majority of log sources, we have default connectors available with MS Sentinel. So based on all these criteria, we decided to go ahead with MS Sentinel at that point in time.
Thank you, Ravi. It's interesting to see the strategic considerations behind your choice. Ravi, in addition, can you also tell us your experience with the migration process?
I was very scared, to be honest, when we embarked our journey on migrating from existing on-prem SIEM solution to cloud. And I had a discussion with Proficio SMAs. Anil was also part of a few discussions I had. The whole challenge was we have to do everything in 2 months' time. So given the number of workloads we have and diversity and multiple locations, we have to achieve this in 2 months' time. I can say we did that, and we did this before that, before touching 60 days. All the workloads have been successfully moved to MS Sentinel. What helped us? So since there's a trusted partner explaining us the solution, like Proficio, they really help us in simplifying the overall approach, saying that, Ravi, this is how you work today. And it is the same thing, it is just a change, or there are certain things which need to be changed, and we'll take care of it. That assurance really helped us. Obviously, there are consistent stakeholder engagement. So wherever there is a confusion, there is a doubt, there is a support required. There was a project manager assigned to the project who was consistently working towards that to ensure the migration is successful. Whenever there are challenges, those have been called out, and obviously we have solved that at that point in time. There was a risk management strategy also in the place, just in case if something will not work, how we are going with alternate approaches there. So it is not always about the first approach. You need to have second and third options always ready with you, just in case first doesn't work. And with all those consideration and all those options given by Proficio, we successfully migrated our on-prem SIEM to MS Sentinel. So yeah, that was a very good journey at the end of the 2 months.
Great insights, Ravi. The support from Proficio seems to have been crucial. Now let's turn to Anil to understand how Microsoft Sentinel keeps up with the changing threat landscape. Anil, how does Microsoft Sentinel adapt to new challenges in the threat landscape, and what can we expect from future updates or enhancements?
Great question, Brian. And as we speak about the changing threat landscape, I slightly mentioned this earlier that, at the moment, when I look at Microsoft Threat Intelligence Report, they are tracking more than 300 unique threat actors at the moment. And more than 160 of these threat actors are nation state actors. And more than 50, some are focused on ransomware, right? So those are ransomware groups. So if you see, these are the threat actors which are heavily funded, and they are able to build sophisticated tools, right? And they are able to get access into complex environment. They are, in fact, one of the recent incidents that I was reading about today, the attackers were able to maintain persistence inside an environment for more than 3 years in an organization, right? And it took multiple attempts for the organization to be able to take them out, because they had built in so many of these, identified so many of these weak spots where the security monitoring was not so strong. Like, for example, identifying legacy platforms and so on. At the same time, what else is happening is generative AI. So we all know the good use, the positive use cases of generative AI, but also threat actors are also making use of generative AI. So earlier I was referring to one of the reports from OpenAI, right? And Microsoft collaborates closely there as well. And there is so many of these use cases that are coming through the report, where we can see attackers or threat actors making use of generative AI, like they're creating sophisticated content for phishing emails. They are using analyzed codes, right? Source codes they have access. They are using it to modify malware. So with this kind of ongoing developments with more sophisticated threat, with the volume of threats growing, it's no longer going to be very practical to just rely on detection capabilities, like the way we look at traditional approach to bring in all the logs and put it in a SIM and then build a response on top of that, either manual or by using SOAR. So what we really need now is the ability to do attack disruption. Right, and this is where Microsoft has taken the lead, and we have the advantage of having these two platforms, which is the Defender XDR platform, which consolidates the threats from different domains, including endpoint, email, identity, cloud infrastructure, on-premises, and so on. And then we have Microsoft Sentinel, which can bring in the data from rest of the sources, also can bring in the threat intelligence and so on. So what we are doing in terms of the new investments is bringing these two together, and this is what we call the unified SOC. And then we are complementing this on top with the Co-pilot for security, which is generative AI. So overall, what this is able to do is that ultimately what SOC teams want to achieve is an improved time to remediate threats, right? So they want to improvise the MTTR, right? And what we do with a combination of the XDR, which does automatic investigation response, and the SIM and SOAR capability is to improve the mean time to remediate. The ultimate aspiration, I think, would be to bring it down to a few minutes, like in single digits, right? And I think in some environments, we have been able to also see that because the XDR itself takes care of a lot of, these threats. It is able to significantly reduce that volume that goes to SOC analysts. And then for the SOC analysts, we are able to assist them through Co-pilot for security. So the SOC teams are a lot more effective from, right from the beginning of the joining time into the SOC team. So this is, I think, where we are headed with respect to the next phase of our investments and enhancements in the security operations platform, which will bring together all the goodness between the Defender XDR and Microsoft Sentinel, right? So I think this is what I would definitely call out as the exciting investments. The other thing I think maybe worth mentioning is about the log volume. Right? So I think it's definitely one of the pain points that customers talk about, because with the increased adoption of cloud, with in-house applications, as we have seen in some of the threats, some of the incidents that are well published or followed by a lot of people, is that many times the security monitoring by active threats in the environment, right? So which means we need to make sure we have the maximum capability to bring in the logs into a SIM and be able to analyze all of that. But at the same time, it increases the cost. So to balance that with Sentinel, what we are doing is we are introducing additional log tiers, or improving the current offerings as well. So we have all known, we have basic log tier, but at the same time, we are introducing additional log tiers as well, so that customers can ingest additional volume of data. At the same time, they can decide what to keep in the top tier, which is log analytics, and what is probably not so much required for real-time analytics, and put it down in the lower data tiers as well. So it's going to be a very good way to balance the cost and the ROI that customers drive out of bringing the data into Microsoft Sentinel, right? So these are the things I think worth calling out, when it comes to the new innovations in Microsoft Sentinel.
Thanks for the update, Anil. Now let's shift our focus to how partnerships can enhance cybersecurity strategies when using leading security tools like Microsoft Sentinel. Ravi, I'd like to dig into the value you're seeing with Sentinel. Can you share the key results and benefits your organization has experienced from using Microsoft Sentinel in conjunction with Proficio services?
Sure. So first thing is when I compare, like 1 year already we are in MS Sentinel. So if I compare my state the way it was 1 year before, I can see my number of use cases or analytics tools when we talk in terms of MS Sentinel has increased 5 times. So I have more detection capabilities what I used to have 1 year back. So that is one of the important proofs that there has been detection capability improved immediately. And one good thing I really like to mention is there are a lot of use cases available out of the box which you can go and use it, which is very rich in nature. And for every technology, those use cases are getting updated on a regular basis. And Proficio maintain a copy of it and do a proper fine tuning of it so that it can be utilized by International SOS whenever required, right? So we are consistently increasing the number of analytics use cases. And whenever I have to bring a new log source on board, I don't have to think too much about new use cases. And in fact, Proficio has to not think too much about new use cases because library is rich enough so that we can have immediately few use cases coming in, which can help us in detection and monitoring. So that is on the detection side of things. As I mentioned earlier, that one of the primary criteria for me going to, or for organization going to MS Sentinel was related to automation. We wanted to embark our journey on automation. And I can say we have achieved approximately 40% automation today. So out of all the use cases, whatever triggers today, we have automation enabled for approximately 40% of use cases, and all using native MS Sentinel or Microsoft product rather, because it is not just a single product. We should understand it is sitting on Azure, and all the Azure capabilities can be utilized when we are using MS Sentinel, right? So that's very much integrated with each other. So for our automation, we do rely with logic apps, but at the same time, we use other Microsoft Azure services whenever it is required. So that is that helps us to achieve 40%, and we are targeting around 60 to 70% in next financial year with help of Proficio. So we are consistently working towards that. So Anil mentioned about threat hunting capabilities. So I do like to acknowledge the fact that we like that particular capability, which is in case of any live threat ongoing, we have this threat hunting capabilities and a lot of inbuilt features coming in, which gives us insight about the threat actors which is active in the organization. So that threat hunting, and there are a lot of playbooks which can be integrated directly with those threat hunting queries. So that's really helpful while doing an investigation, and analysts really help with use it on their day-to-day operations. Workbooks, yes, we do use workbooks, and there is a detailed list library of analytics available with MS Sentinel, which is further improved by Proficio, and we have very rich analytics developed today on top of Power BI using MS Sentinel and other log sources what we have, right? So that is the key values what I'm able to appreciate in last 1 year. Maybe there will be more in next 1 year, so we can meet another after 1 year for that. Thank you so much.
Impressive, Ravi. It's clear that leveraging the right tools and partners can make a significant difference. Now let's explore how these types of partnerships can help companies address their current and future security challenges. Ravi, how do you believe the partnership with Proficio has positioned International SOS to better address current and future cybersecurity challenges?
Yeah, so I would like to start how it was 1 year before, right? When we start, like, this is 5th year for me with Proficio. And we started with a different SIM vendor, then we moved to MS Sentinel last year. It is always, if I have to summarize this in one sentence, I would say flexible and customized approach of Proficio is the best thing which we always appreciate, because they are always ready with their customized offering whenever we have a problem, or whenever we are trying to solve a problem, right? In case of MS Sentinel, they help us to understand the product really well. And when you are hearing it from your incumbent who really understand your organization and the assurance which comes from incumbent about and it simplifies, right? If someone is just showing you that this is how you are today, and I have a very clear plan how I can migrate you to the next SIM solution, it gives you a lot of confidence, and that is what we got from Proficio at that point in time. The way use cases and analytics tools were configured, there is a list of almost, I think, 1,000 use cases readily available, which can be enabled the moment you get onboarded with a little bit of fine tuning. It gives you assurance that the moment your log sources are in, you can have analytics tools in, and at least you don't have to wait for another 6 months for anyone to develop the log analytics use cases. So that is the value add which we have received. Obviously, we do a lot of other things because Proficio is a true cybersecurity partner. Outside of managing MS Sentinel, they're a dedicated team who develop Power BI analytics for us. And that is really appreciated by our business because it gives them, they can see the value add from the business sense, that how the cybersecurity is adding the value in the business directly. That view is possible, and that is also something what we have achieved in last few years. We have a very good library of data analytics there. And last thing which I would like to add is we are running cybersecurity operation with help of Proficio, keeping automation in the center. The whole idea is to automate as much as we can, and that automation in center always helps us to minimize the manual overhead and enhancing the overall detection capabilities and response capabilities. So that is all I would like to mention here. Thank you.
Excellent, Ravi. It's good to hear about the measures you're taking in collaboration with Proficio. Now let's turn to Anil to explore Microsoft Security Co-pilot. Anil, can you tell us what's unique about Microsoft Co-pilot for security, and how does it address the concerns around privacy?
Sure, Brian. And as you know, the Copilot for security has been generating a lot of interest and excitement among customers as well. So we are seeing a lot of active engagements in this area. And I think one of the things that I've discovered is, especially for customers who are already using Microsoft platform, which basically is including Microsoft Sentinel, Defender XDR, and rest of M365, the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So one good thing is like the embedded experience that Copilot for security brings is actually quite seamless. It can fit into rest of the ecosystem so well and make the task for the SOC analysts immediately so much easier without really even going to another portal, because we can light up the Copilot for security right within the Defender portal. The moment a SOC analyst launches a security incident, the Copilot for security can start doing the job on the right side of the portal by starting with the incident summary, giving recommendations how to triage the incident, giving recommendations how to perform the investigation, including crafting some messages based on the incident entities like the IP address, the username, the device, and so on. So it can craft a message, allow the analyst to contact the user to do some validation, recommending some automation playbooks to perform the automated response and remediation, generate security reports, pull in the security posture information to guide how to avoid this kind of security incident in the future. And like I said, all it requires you is to just turn on the service, right? Which is basically the SCUs in the backend. And the job of analysts becomes a lot more easier just by enabling it there, right? So the other experience is a standalone experience. And again, once again, we have lots of plugins, not just, of course, this is not something which is limited to Microsoft ecosystem. So through hundreds of these plugins and including customizable plugins that customers can develop by themselves, the Copilot for security can extend the coverage beyond these out-of-box solutions as well, right? So that basically makes it a lot more usable and practical as a generative AI solution, which can expand or become like the generative AI solution for everything that you need in your security operations, right? So that's one thing. Second is also the threat intelligence that we bring in with Copilot for security. So as you might know, that Copilot for security comes in or brings with it the Defender for threat intel. So what that means is when a SOC analyst is investigating an incident, the Copilot for security can look up some of those entities like IP addresses and so on, and see if there is any of the IOC matches there, right? So make it more useful for the SOC analysts to know, okay, these are the known IOCs, give them recommendations to perform threat hunting by generating KQL queries and see what else possibly is happening in the environment through those IP addresses. Like Sentinel brings in a lot of data from network appliances. So is there any connections happening, and that is identified through any firewall logs, for example? So a lot of that innovative capabilities that the Co-pilot for security brings in is something that comes really handy during security operations. And the last part is about privacy. This is where, if you see the approach that Microsoft takes, based on the security principles, is that customer data is always customer data and it remains with customer, right? So we never train our AI models or foundational AI models on customer data, and it's protected by the same level of compliance and security controls that rest of Microsoft platform follows as well, right? So the teams within the customer organization can create prompt books, create their own prompts, right? Share it among the team members. However, everything remains within the customer environment, right? So it's fully owned by customers. So there's basically nothing that Microsoft is sticking out of that environment. So that's how I would want to summarize for Co-pilot for security.
Thank you for the detailed explanation, Anil. We are all excited about what the future holds for security ops with Microsoft Security Co-pilot. Let's turn to Brad to get his perspective on using AI in cybersecurity operations. Brad, could you provide insights into the role of AI in augmenting cybersecurity operations, particularly with Microsoft Security Co-pilot?
Sure, Brian, thank you very much for the question. And I know we're all talking about AI these days, AI for building, incredible models and evaluating, how our grammar is put together and looking at, pictures and video and everything. But in the area of cybersecurity, there's two areas that we help to use AI. One is in the detection of anomalies and detection of threats using machine learning models. So where you don't have a static use case to ask questions of the data, you need the data to tell you something that's interesting. And that's what machine learning models do. It looks at, patterns and moving patterns and statistical anomalies. And it's finding those things that you're not asking a question of the machine for. So it highlights things to help you to do threat hunting. So that's on the detection side. More on the area of generative AI, where we're using Microsoft Co-pilot and other large language models. There's three main areas of value. And Ravi, I think, is using a lot of those and mentioned some of these, as well as, Anil said, some of the things that Microsoft is working to help Co-pilot assist security operations with. There's three main areas for the SOC, the responder, and for management. So when you look at SOC analysts, what we found is utilizing AI and Co-pilot will make them about 25% more productive. They have more efficient investigations and analysis of data that was mentioned by Anil. We also find that it's helpful in doing things like analyzing a PowerShell script, trying to determine what does that script actually trying to do. Is it malicious or not malicious? So you can really dig into the details of some more, advanced functionality that SOC analysts sometimes have to perform. But it also will help you with summarizing events. So it will take, a large amount of data that you're gathering, within Sentinel, put it together and put it into a summarization of what to do for the immediate response and then what to do for remediation. So the summarization of the events is really helpful for the SOC analyst to pass the data on to the responder. So for the responder, you can get Co-pilot and other AI functionalities to help the responder in that guided response action. So quite often you'll have built up templates and standard operating procedures or playbooks, workbooks, whatever you want to call it, where if this incident happens, then perform this particular response action. But sometimes you'll have a series of incidents that will come together, and you need to understand, based on the series of incidents, what do I need to do to provide remediation? And so this is where AI comes into play. It looks at those broad variances, puts it all together, and gives you a pretty good summation of what to do for remediation. And also, for the responder, there's some more simple tasks. So one of the challenges that companies have when they go from one SIEM to Sentinel is the query language might be different for how do I do investigations. So I have an incident, I want to pivot on a device, and I want to look before, all the logs before and all the logs after that particular incident time. How do I create a KQL query to do that? You can actually set up AI to do that for you. You can say, this incident, create the query, and it will automatically create the query language, and you just click the link and away you go. So it really helps, get that transition up to speed so you can get faster at doing the investigations. And then the other area is for management. So for management, you really are trying to put together, an idea of what's happening, what are the trends, what do I need to look at, what, is this data really mean? And this is an area that's often challenging to do the analysis for. And AI has some really good capabilities here. So, with Copilot being tuned specifically for security, it will give you a lot of ideas. And so you can really, I wouldn't want to say play around with this, but you can really ask a lot of just general questions to get some incident reporting, get some trend reporting. You can create, say, over the last 30 days and these incidents, what should I know and ascertain about them? And how should I look at remediating this so that it doesn't happen again? So it'll help you to drill into some of the root cause analysis, perform some recommendations for response remediation actions, and then provide you with some trend analytics as well. So again, three main areas are, productivity for your SOC analyst, probably the best, helping your responder and guidance for some of the things that you haven't seen before and putting those together in an action plan for you, as well as some tasks like creating queries. And then for management, starting to work with how do you put together some reports and analysis for the broad-based data that you have. So those would be, some of the recommendations that I would have.
Thank you, Brad. AI is truly revolutionizing the field. Now I'd like to give the floor to Ravi to hear about any plans for using Security Co-pilot. Ravi, how do you see the future roadmap of using Microsoft Security Co-pilot in your security operations?
As Anil mentioned, this is very new, and I'm exploring along with Microsoft and Proficio what are the potential ways we can utilize this in our day-to-day operations. Given the fact AI is the future, everyone is talking about it, so we have to find a ways how we can ensure the cybersecurity is AI-driven, right? So right now we are in discussion, and we are looking forward at how we can bring the power of Copilot in cybersecurity operations when we are running our SOC. The whole idea, the way I see this is we have to do a little bit of balanced approach. Instead of just jumping and expecting AI to do everything, it is not a silver bullet, which is going to solve all our problems. But at the same time, it can be our friend in doing the investigation and helping us with more customized reports and more faster detection and response. That's how I look at a Copilot. The TCO is also a very important concern from management perspective, where we have to see what is the total cost of ownership against the benefit. That's the discussion which we are trying to have and understand how AI can help us in bringing the cost of ownership and also doing a lot of things which we are doing it manually today. So that's something what I think about Copilot.
That's a promising outlook, Ravi. Brad, I'm interested in hearing how Proficio fits into the vision for the future. What is Proficio's role in helping International SOS achieve their vision for using Microsoft Security Co-pilot?
And thanks for the question, Brian. And first, I want to point out too that Ravi, thank you for your kind words about our combined journey with Sentinel. It's been a great partnership, and one of the main successes is really that. When we started, Ravi and his team had a clear vision for what they wanted to achieve and where they wanted to go. And then, the management teams, made sure that all the people were working together as a group, and we've really become one team. So, I feel though we've been an extension of Ravi's organization, and it's worked really well together. Some of the things that we're doing to help companies, like International SOS, is we assist in understanding our customers' workflow, their environment, their business context. And then we help, kind of do a question and answer with their team so that we can create a recommendation roadmap with Copilot and AI. So you have to start off with simple tasks so that users can get comfortable using AI and the output that is coming from AI, that it's going to be consistent, it's going to be something that's of value. And so you start small with things like, investigation queries, recommendations on remediation, and then you get into some more detailed things like attack discovery and incident stories. So, based on, the alerts over the last 48 hours, week, month, what is the pattern that's achieved from these alerts? Where did it start? Where did it end? What do we need to do about it? And so those are the things that we start to develop is kind of that walk before you run, and that roadmap of where to go. And then you have to tune everything. You have to tune the questions. You have to tune the responses, and it learns. And so you create some automation within that with some buttons to say do this, do this, do this, and it really helps you to speed the operations along. Again, you always have to recheck and make sure that what you're getting is accurate, and that's part of the learning process as well. So we see that AI has some really, really good, exciting potential, but we have to start looking at how we can do simple things faster, and then start to get in more complex analysis and get comfortable with the output.
Thank you, Brad. It's clear that collaboration is key. Now let's hear from some advice from all of our speakers to organizations that are considering adopting Microsoft Sentinel or Microsoft Security Co-pilot for their cybersecurity needs. Let's start with Ravi. What advice would you give to organizations considering adopting Microsoft Sentinel or Microsoft Security Co-pilot for their cybersecurity needs?
It is dependent on every organization roadmap and where the security posture is currently. But the way I see Microsoft Sentinel is a capable product, and when you are working with right partners, it can be implemented successfully, and it is capable product where it is all about what you want to achieve out of it. It has all the required functionalities. You can achieve a lot of customization and automation using this platform. So it is all about how you want to use it, and about the product is capable enough. So that is how I see this particular point here.
Thank you for your perspective, Ravi. Brad Taylor, let's hear from you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I agree with Ravi. You have to have a clear list of your primary objectives so that you can create a winning project and the timeline. And again, start off with, what is the requirements, and then go into the more, detailed things of where I want to go, a year from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. One of the things I highly recommend is collecting detailed review of your environment in order to plan to populate Sentinel with good data. If you don't have good data, you're not going to get good outcomes. So, mandatory log sources are things like, your next generation firewalls with your URLs, your domain controllers, your, identity access management. You've got to input your email, your cloud security, infrastructure. And then one thing that sometimes we see people do is they leave out the EDR, because, I look at that data in the other console. Don't do that. You have to put all the data in Sentinel so that you can get the full picture of the analysis of what's happening. So, put in the EDR, XDR data as well. That data has to be in to give the full picture. The next is you really need to look at your business context so that it's not just an IP address that's compromised. Is it a finance server? Is it the administrator, janitor's personal computer someplace? So you have to know your network architecture. You have to know your asset classifications, your zones, your prioritizations. This helps your responders understand, do I need to do something right now, or do I need to just put a ticket in to have somebody clear adware off of somebody's PC someplace? The next thing is, again, if you start to click all the buttons and all of the rules that are doing detection, you're going to have a lot of alerts. A lot of that's going to be false because you need to tune it to your environment. You need to first look at the business context of what is good and known good behavior and good traffic. Like you need to know, where are my vulnerability scanners, and then whitelist those. What applications are performing scanning or looking for agents, and whitelist those. You need to know what are good geolocations, what are bad geolocations, or let the system learn the geolocations for your different users that are remote. So that's the business context. There's a lot more to that. And then you need to create a SOC run book. You need to understand, in some place, where are all of the log sources? What are the additional data that I need to have? Where do I get that data? And what is the workflow for investigating? What are the templates for investigating? What are my standard operating procedures for response, or playbooks or workbooks for response? So building out and doing some work ahead of time, understanding what you're going to populate, what you need to look at, what's your business context to tune it to your environment, and then what's the true workflow, is going to help you out in the long run to be prepared to migrate to a really, really good tool.
Great insights, Brad. As a reminder to the audience, you may provide questions for the Q&A portion of the webinar for us to address. Now let's switch to Anil. Anil, we'd love to hear your take on this as well. What advice would you give to organizations considering adopting Microsoft Sentinel or Microsoft Security Co-pilot for their cybersecurity needs?
Yeah, I think, on my part, I would definitely call out to maximize every opportunity where an organization can look at improving their attack disruption capabilities, right? And then, how every decision can lead to improvement in mean time to remediate. Because I think that's going to lead to the ultimate success of security operations, right? And on the other hand, also, it's about like how every step you take going forward can simplify your security operations, how it can break silos between different teams, because I see customers still struggling a lot. Teams have been structured, since a lot of long time, right? Like they are performing their respective duties in silos, but then it becomes a really challenging task for them to bring all of that information in one place and make it useful to, save the time when it's really critical, right? And in situations where they're going through an incident, right? So this, I think, definitely help and will also align in terms of the approach that Microsoft is taking going forward. There's always going to be opportunity where you definitely need to look at some specialized tooling as well, but then I think that can always be an approach where you can take it along, because most of the solutions that we are talking about, be it Copilot for security, Microsoft Sentinel, all of these can integrate with broader ecosystem of the solutions that you have in the organization, right? So I think my 3 top points would be like bringing in simplicity, improving the mean time to remediate, and thirdly, like looking at out-of-box capabilities from the solution to perform attack disruption. Thanks, Brian, for the question.
Thank you, Anil, for those valuable recommendations, and to all the speakers for their advice. Now let's move on to the Q&A session. Allison will be running the Q&A, so please feel free to type your questions in the chat. Allison, off to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian, Brad, Ravi, and Anil for that. That was such an informative fireside chat. Lots of great information was in there. We do have some questions in, and as a reminder, just want to remind the audience, feel free to input any questions you have in the Q&A console, and I'll have our experts answer them. For now, let's get to our first question. How do you use automation playbooks and SOAR and UEBA capabilities with Microsoft Sentinels for your clients?
Would that be addressed by Brad, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. Brad, to you.
Sure. Yeah. Can you just quickly repeat the question so that I can get some answer that better?
Yes. So it says, how do you use automation playbooks and SOAR and UEBA capabilities with Microsoft Sentinel for your clients?
Got it. Okay, so let me just kind of give you an example of one company. So we have a high-tech manufacturing company that we work with that used to have another SIM technology, and they had a separate UBA, they had a separate SOAR system, and they didn't have everything into one console. And so one of the benefits of Sentinel is it's all together. And so what we were able to do for this high-tech manufacturing company is they had an area of the development and research that they really wanted to protect. And so we looked at, who are the users, what are the contexts, where do they have, usually their interactions with these systems. And we were able to come up with a couple of things using user behavior analytics. We were able to look at insider threat detection, things like, did somebody provide a resignation and then they tried to use a USB drive and then they tried to access data during off hours or from a different geolocation. So there's a lot of different user behaviors that are suspicious that you can create within the UBA analytics and look at that with all kinds of other logs. So it's not just the user behavior, but it's logs from different sources and different data points. And it's all in a single console, all in a single, building block for creating the actual content. And then what we were able to do was also plug in the response actions using SOAR capabilities with logic apps. So it could be like quarantine that device off the network, suspend that user account until approved and authorized. So there's a lot of things you can tie together with the UBA to create customization for insider threat or even standard behaviors using anomalies and a lot of different capabilities inside of Sentinel, and then take those actions that are automatically contained or help the response teams understand how to efficiently provide some type of response actions. So that would be some of the recommendations I would provide.
Thank you so much. It looks like you may be in the hot seat. We have another question in for you, Brad. This one comes from Sam. He says, can you share a specific success story or a case study where Microsoft Sentinel significantly improved threat detection or incident response?
Absolutely. So, I'll just use ourselves as an example. So we are a security operations center as a service. And in our environment, we're always looking at how we can be more efficient with detection so that we make sure that the accuracy of the notifications we provide is very high with low false positives. And it has the detailed information that gives our customers the ability to respond and prioritize those responses. What's a critical response as opposed to what's a lower level, response function. So as Anil mentioned, you can really get your mean time to detect, within, under 15 minutes, and your mean time to respond within minutes as opposed to hours and days. And so with Sentinel, it allows us to bring all of the data, not just data from the logs, but data from other third-party resources to help us to do that validation. Is this a true event? Things like, virus total, things like, data from, configuration databases and other things to help us review very, very quickly. And then it also helps the analysts put together that summarization of data to provide the context to the responder on how to respond. And then in certain situations, as Ravi and Anil mentioned, if it's highly automated with high fidelity, you can automate some of those responses, like just block that IP address of the bad actor that we've determined from threat intelligence and the activities that they're performing, so that it automatically contains the threat so that it doesn't become a compromise. And so that would be some of the examples that we use. Now, we're getting about a 20-25% productivity enhancement, plus a lot more detail in the investigation using Sentinel and using some of the AI functionality and some of the integrations that we've been able to do. On the response side, our customers are getting response actions that are automated that are happening within less than 5 minutes, as opposed to 24 hours or a Monday following a Friday incident. So those are some really exciting things on the mean time to detect, mean time to respond activities.
Thank you so much. We have one in for Anil. Anil, our question comes from John. John wants to know what excites you the most among the latest developments in Microsoft Sentinel.
Great. Thanks for the question, John. I think I spoke about quite a few, developments in Sentinel, but what excites me the most is I think about helping customers migrate faster to Sentinel. And, given that so much interest we are seeing from customers, what we have done is that we have developed this capability within Sentinel to help translate a lot of these use cases from the existing SIM solutions that customers may have in their environments and make that job a lot more easier, right? So we can write either equivalent or a query which was, mostly matching the existing use case in the existing SIM platform, and that makes it much faster for a SOC team to see how a specific use case can be developed within Sentinel environment. So this is something new, and I think we already have a couple of SIM solutions that we already support for this migration. So I think this is definitely I would call out as a good development in that direction, where we can speed up the journey for customers to adopt Sentinel.
Amazing. And then our next question comes in from Peter. Peter wants to know, Ravi, are there any additional services that Proficio provides to your organization beyond MDR for Microsoft Sentinel that enhances your overall security posture?
Yes, currently Proficio provide us obviously MDR services. In addition, we are also getting RVPM, which is vulnerability scan and response services from Proficio. There are some additional services like analytics. Managing our analytics services is also something which is done by Proficio in general. So currently we are getting end-to-end services of management of our incident. It is not just about detection. Once it is detection, taking it to the closure and do the RCA for every incident is also something which Proficio does for us.
Thank you so much. It looks like that's all the time we have today. Thank you, Brian, Brad, Ravi, and Anil for being with us today. Thank you to the audience for attending today's webcast. And of course, a special thank you to Proficio for sponsoring today's event presented by Redmond Mag. Have a great, wonderful rest of your day, everyone.